Well, it's Monday in America, which means that there is so much to go through from the fuckery of the weekend. And I, dear friends, am here with all of you to make sense out of the nonsense. But also, can anyone peep the fact that it is 5 o'clock and pitch black dark? I hate this. Like, yes, this time of year is glorious because it's fall and it's my birthday month, but my God, it looks like midnight. Anyway, I am so happy that you all are here. Welcome, Damnation. It's Monday in America. Let's get into the fire hose of acid. Let's go. Hello, hello, damnation, and welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. It is Monday in America, which I always find absolutely exhausting these days. Hopefully you all checked out Democracy-ish, which the full video is up right now with Waj and I at noon today. Because I tell you, Waj puts together our Monday shows, and my God, after taking just, a day and a half off to breathe, with fresh air and touch grass, you come back into this place on a Monday and you're just like, where are the aliens? This is the question that I sometimes ask. Where are they? Will anybody beam us up? Will anybody rescue us? Are my thoughts, are my questions. But honestly, I'm pretty sure they drive by the United States and lock their doors. Okay? They drive by Earth and they're like, mm-mm, no intelligent life to be found in the leadership, And the leadership represents the people. And now this is where my beef begins because, friends, we're in the find out part of the fuck around. You and I didn't vote for this, but yet here we are, living through fascism, watching the fall of America, having our hearts broken day in and day out, and just wondering when the fuckery will end, knowing that we could just be 10 months into the 100-year war, right? My feeling is that our generation, the following generation, they may not see an end to this. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how long this can go. And so let's just breathe in, breathe out, and begin. So, a little bit of good news-ish, I guess. I don't even know how to quantify this, but the Trump administration, according to two federal judges' rulings, must continue food aid during the shutdown. The Trump administration cannot suspend food aid used by about 42 million low-income Americans during the U.S. government shutdown, two federal judges have ruled. The ruling said the government must pay for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, benefits, also known as food stamps, using emergency funds. Trump said he had instructed government lawyers to ask the courts how the administration could legally fund SNAP, adding, even if we get immediate guidance, it will unfortunately be delayed. What's funny here is you do illegal shit all the time. So when it comes to feeding people, hungry children, 1 in 5, to which receive SNAP benefits, 1 in 8 American adults receive SNAP benefits. Now you want to all of a sudden ask questions about legality? You didn't ask that when you took all the boxes and put them in the shitter when the National Archives were asking you to return, America's documents and secrets. You weren't asking that, right? When you got on the phone with Zelensky, is it okay if I call another foreign leader and ask him to dig up dirt on my political opponent? You weren't asking whether or not that was legal. So why now right? Would you turn around and say, well, I don't know if we're able to fund, even though Congress had already put together contingency plans, and not this Congress, but back when we had functional Congresses, they put together a contingency plan that set aside about $6 billion so that even if the government were to be shut down, and this time being absolutely on purpose and part of Project 2025, that guess what? Those in need wouldn't go hungry, because in America, in a democracy, we're not supposed to weaponize food. But like I said earlier today on Democracy-ish, and I will say it again here, what we allow, what we justify, what we ignore that happens in other countries, like in Israel, like in Sudan, right? These massive genocides, this weaponization of food, right? You allow it to happen in one place, it will absolutely happen where you live as well. Because what you reap, you sow. You see what I'm saying? The United States is on some just fuck shit, right? Like, there's no other way for me to say this, because when I saw the pictures, right, and we'll get to it, and we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's stay here, because I don't want to get ahead of myself with my anger. So after this ruling, right, by two separate judges, the White House now says it will make only partial SNAP payments this month. And I don't think that there was anything in the ruling. So this is according to the New York Times. I don't think that there was anything in those rulings that said, oh, the government needs to fund food partially. No, they said that you need to fund the food because you have the money. So tens of millions of Americans will get only partial payments from the SNAP program for this month. The Trump administration told a federal judge on Monday, and it was not clear when even those reduced benefits would be distributed. The administration said it would not tap additional money to fund full payments in November, the second month of the government shutdown. The food aid program for the low-income women and children, commonly known as WIC, received more temporary funding. Well, thank God, right? Thank God. But here's the thing. What we are seeing and what we showed today on Democracy-ish were the long lines that are at food banks. And those long lines, when we're talking about food banks, come as Donald Trump has exacerbated a economic crisis, right? Where he has furloughed a bunch of government employees that now they're toying with the idea of not even giving them their back pay back, right? Because what this administration wants, what this regime wants, is slave labor. They want a return to fiefdoms and indentured servitude, where you serve at the pleasure for minimal amount of money so that you can continue feeding the capitalist greedy machine of the oligarchs. That's what they want. They don't give a fuck about these United States. It's why they're building bunkers and rocket ships to take them off of this planet Earth that they have destroyed. You see, I saw something the other day, and I had to laugh. I had to laugh. I saw something the other day that said, don't, throw your pumpkins, your jack-o'-lanterns from Halloween into landfills because it adds to, the carbon footprint, right? And I'm thinking to myself, are we really telling people what they need to do with their pumpkins as if it isn't the private jet people, right? The billionaires and the millionaires riding around on private jets, when in fact they could take, commercial first class and not add as much carbon monoxide into the air. But you want to talk to us about pumpkins and fucking plastic straws? Like, I'm not saying that we all don't play a part and shouldn't play a part, but let us not pretend as if a couple of pumpkins being disposed of is what is causing the catastrophic storm that we just saw, category 5, 200-mile-per-hour winds that hit Jamaica, is because of straws. No, it is because of the Bezos and the Musks and the Kardashians of the world that, have this Maria Antoinette, let them eat cake, let them breathe pollution, because we have a plan for our future and it doesn't concern them what happens with the rest of us. It doesn't concern them what is going to happen with Earth. Earth is in their rear view mirror, right? They're looking at robotics that will have their brains functioning and keep them alive forever so that they can dominate other galaxies and universes. I wish that I was making this shit up. But this is the ideology of the technocrats, right? That are now in control of everything. And so, you know what I find funny? Of course, over the weekend, while Donald Trump was totally happy to let 42 million people go hungry because of not funding SNAP, oh, but he goes ahead and throws a Great Gatsby themed party. Now, if you know anything about Great Gatsby, the book, which tells the story, right, of this, young man who it makes up an entire life to become a part of the wealthy elite and falls in love. And it shows like the absolute disconnect that the wealthy have to everything else. The roaring 20s, right? They're just so careless. And Donald Trump throws this party at Mar-a-Lago with dancers and, dancing for the rich. And it was just so over the top and gross. And here is a great quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald from The Great Gatsby. They were careless people. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together and let other people clean up the mess they had made. If that is not the Republican Party in a nutshell, if that is not this regime in a nutshell, you have this piece of garbage being awarded not one, but 2 private jets, supposedly for the Department of Homeland Security, but looks pretty top tier to me, looks pretty luxurious. And that's $172 million of our money. That's what this government is spending their money on. They're not spending their money on helping us, on infrastructure, on helping the most marginalized, on schools, on research, on anything that we actually need. No. They're funding Ice Barbie's cosplay. They're funding Donald Trump's $300 million ballroom. And then they have the audacity to turn around and say, oh, I don't know if we can fund SNAP. I don't know where we'll find that money. Well, I don't know where you'll find the money to give billionaires a permanent tax cut. Oh, that's right. You're doing it off the backs of the poor. Folks, to say that I'm disgusted or that you're disgusted would be the understatement of the world, right? Like it is so obscene because in this wealthy, abundant country that we live in, we have lines that are miles long and that are going to get worse because there are roughly nearly 1 million Americans that are out of work right now. There are more unemployed people than there are job openings right now. That only leads to one thing. So we think that these detention centers that are being built, oh, they're for the undocumented. Oh, they're for criminals. No, they're not. They're for nannies and gardeners and entrepreneurs and teachers and the like. But what is going to happen is that they are being created. These private prisons are being created for us. Because when you create the chaos that Donald Trump has done, when you drag our economy that was the envy of the world into hell, when you back people up against a wall where they feel like there are no options, their government is working against them, trying to poison us through HHS and our food, trying to kill us, right? ICE has killed, I don't know how many people, at least the ones that have been reported. Every which way they're coming at us. And I'm telling you, they are building those prisons for dissenters. They're building those prisons for people who are going to be forced to make unthinkable decisions because of the position that Donald Trump and this regime purposefully put them into. And, the funny thing is, I said, everyone is complicit. Everyone. But particularly corporate mainstream media. Particularly, right? Those that have bent the knee, paid out Donald Trump, done his bidding, lied to the American people, and continue to do so. CBS ran an interview yesterday with Donald Trump. It's the first time he's done an interview with CBS in 5 years. And why has he done an interview with CBS? Oh, that's right. Because they paid him out $16 million for a flawless, frivolous, bullshit lawsuit that they could have challenged, but they decided not to. And not only did they pay Donald Trump out, they hired a racist Zionist to run CBS News. She fired all of the black people, all of the brown people, only kept the white ones as a part of the culling that is happening to mainstream corporate media. And then in her second foray, what is she doing? A highly edited interview with Donald Trump. And this is according to The Guardian, because we know that we can't get true news here, right? Like, that's not going to happen. We can't get that here. So I turn to The Guardian that writes this. The CBS News program 60 Minutes heavily edited down an interview with Donald Trump that aired on Sunday night, his first sit down in the show's in 5 years. Trump sat down with correspondent Norah O'Donnell for 90 minutes, but only about 28 minutes were broadcast. A full transcript of the interview was later published, along with the 73-minute long extended version online. While 60 Minutes traditionally cuts down interviews, these edits, pay attention, are particularly notable because exactly 1 year before Trump was interviewed by O'Donnell at his Mar-a-Lago resort on Friday, he had sued CBS over the editing of a 60-minute interview with Kamala Harris, then vice president, which he allegedly had been deceptively edited to help her chances of a presidential election. Many legal experts widely dismissed the lawsuit as meritless and unlikely to hold up under the First Amendment. But CBS settled with Trump for $16 million in July. As part of the settlement, the network had agreed that it would release transcripts of future interviews of presidential candidates. At the beginning of Sunday's show, O'Donnell reminded viewers that Paramount settled Trump's lawsuit, but noted that, quote, the settlement did not include an apology or admission of wrongdoing. During the interview, in a clip that did not air on broadcast, Trump needled CBS over the settlement and repeated his claims against the network. So this, folks, that I'm about to read is what didn't make it to air. I don't know about you, but I would think that the president of the United States boasting about the fact that the network that he was currently being interviewed by paid him out $16 million. Oh, I would think that that would be noteworthy. But, Barry Weiss, I'm sure, thought that it would make Donald Trump look bad. Him speaking. So they edited that part out. And this is what he said. Actually, 60 Minutes paid me a lot of money. And you don't have to put this on because I don't want to embarrass you. And I'm sure you're not. But 60 Minutes was forced to pay me a lot of money because they took her answer out that was so bad. It was election changing 2 nights before the election. And they put a new answer in and they paid me a lot of money for that. You can't have fake news. You've got to have legit news. And I think that it's happening. During another unaired portion of the interview, Trump praised the sale of CBS to the Ellison family, one of his major donors, and said the network's new editor in chief, the Zionist and racist Barry Weiss, was a great new leader. So, what do I have to say to you all, folks? Stop watching CBS. Stop watching mainstream corporate media in general. Because guess what? It is now propaganda TV. Because CBS did basically what the United States accuses China of doing all the time: lying to the masses, right? Not airing certain things, not publishing certain articles, blocking parts of the internet. All of those things are absolutely going to be coming here to these United States under this fascist regime. But Donald Trump has tapped all of his friends to buy up the media like pieces on a monopoly board, to buy up social media so that he can keep us quiet. Because you can't push back against what you really don't know. But the funny thing is, we get our news from a myriad of places now. That's the beauty of the internet. So until Donald Trump shuts down our access to the internet, which folks don't think that can't happen, I suggest that you get your news from independent media and then from sources outside of the United States that are not afraid of this regime and will continue to tell the truth. So also on CBS, oh my God, Nora O'Donnell asked Donald Trump about this crypto criminal, CZ, and he acted like he doesn't know who this man is. Trump claims he doesn't know the crypto billionaire he pardoned last month. Last month, Trump granted a pardon to CZ, the billionaire founder of a cryptocurrency exchange who had pleaded guilty, by the way. He pled guilty to money laundering violations in 2023, and whose company struck a business deal in May involving the Trump family's crypto venture. Because, of course, if there is a criminal and they are wealthy, they are most likely interlocked with the Trump family, because birds of a feather. But now Trump is claiming that he doesn't know who CZ is. Trump distanced himself in an interview on 60 Minutes broadcast. And he says, I don't know who he is. I don't know. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that. And I heard it was a Biden witch hunt. Biden witch hunt. Interesting. In seeking his pardon, CZ hired lawyers and lobbyists with ties to the Trump administration, while Binance struck a business deal involving World Liberty Financial, the Trump family's crypto venture, that was expected to generate tens of millions of dollars a year for the Trump family. I told you this earlier today on Democracy-ish. Their portfolio, the family portfolio, is now worth $5 billion because of their crypto scheme that is now worth more than all of their real estate and licensing combined. And what is crypto being used for by these type of people? Oh, sex trafficking, the abuse of children, terrorist attacks, all of these things, because if you use crypto, it's not traced. It doesn't follow the same rules because nobody has figured out how to regulate it. So that's why Donald Trump and his family got into crypto, because you can pay him in bribes and do all of these things. And guess what? It's not tracked. It's one of the reasons why one of the first things that Donald Trump did in the couple of months in office was deregulate crypto. and pass all kinds of laws that would benefit him and his family. Why? Because they're a crime family. And this was not a witch hunt because CZ pled guilty to a lesser prison sentence. When it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's so much grift. It's so many lies. It's so overwhelming. Because everywhere you look, everything that Donald Trump touches is disgusting. It's grotesque. I've been seeing Barack Obama make the rounds again as he uh stumps for uh the Virginia Democratic governor candidate, right? And he's going all in on this centrist, right? That he is pushing for. And I think that that is phenomenal. Abigail Spanberger. It's great to see Obama again. But the fact is, I worry. I worry that this regime is going to try and take him out. I worry that they're going to go after him. He's out there speaking truth to power, reminding people of America's better angels. And he is exactly the reminder and giving the kind of speeches that this regime does not want. And if they really want a civil war, take out the person that people love, not just in this country, but around the world. These are the thoughts that go through my head. I wish that I was being hyperbolic, but I don't think so. I think that these people will stop at absolutely nothing in order to stay in power. I think that they will stop at nothing to try and figure out, how do we invoke the Insurrection Act? What can we do? Right? They throw ICE agents at us. They bring the National Guard in, and still 10 months in, the people aren't taking the bait. So how do you continue, right, to goad them? How do you continue to poke the bear? This is what concerns me. Right now, up at the New York Times, Masha Gessen, has a really good piece that is up. And I clipped part of it for today's show because it is a question that I ask myself a lot these days. How to be a good citizen of a bad country. Because, the thing is, folks, we know that America has always done dirt, right? We know that depending on where you go and who you ask about America, you'll get wildly different results, whether or not we were the colonizers, whether or not we bombed the hell out of their countries, remove their duly elected leaders in order for us to extract from their countries, whether it's oil or minerals, et cetera, et cetera. But there had never been a time until Trump's first term that I had ever traveled abroad and people ask me where I'm from and I say the United States, and that wasn't followed with something lovely, right? Oh, I hope to get to the US. Oh, I love New York. Oh, such good people. Blah, 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 blah. Then Donald Trump became president. I went to Portugal. And in Portugal, I was on a boat tour and they said, "Where is everybody from?" They're going around, come to my sister and I, and we say, "Oh, we're from the US." And they're like, "Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Sorry for your loss." Around here, we believe in climate change. And so that's what we're going to be talking about on this boat tour, and how climate change is changing our seas and et cetera, et cetera. Now, when I travel, I'm almost embarrassed to say where I'm from. Of course, I have to because my accent, but I'm just like, the people see you. I was in Europe over the summer and they're like, how is it? How is America? And it's hard to respond. It's shitty. It's really bad. It's depressing. Don't come. Don't want anything to happen to you. Stay away. Right? So M. Gesson writes this piece, and they begin it with this. When your country pursues abhorrent policies, when the face it turns to the world is the face of a monster, what does that say about you? In my experience, it is strikingly easy to shrug off one's responsibility for the country where one pays taxes, contributes to public conversation, and at least nominally has the right to vote, if that country is the United States. It seems one just say, not in my name, and continue to enjoy the wealth and the freedom of movement one's citizenship confers. But as this country builds more cages for immigrants, deploys military force against civilians in city after city, regularly commits murder in the high seas, and systematically destroys its own democratic institutions, that may change. It should change. What does one do then? How can one be a good citizen of a bad state? On a recent trip to Israel, I talked to a number of Jewish citizens who had grappled with this question. In the last 2 years, as Israel has carried out a genocide against Palestinians and has all but dropped any pretense of democracy, many Israelis have come to dread telling people what country they are from. Some see this as unfair, having never personally supported their country's far-right politicians or its prime minister, and having done what they could to change the course of Israeli politics. Others, a tiny minority, are grateful for the scorn of other nations, in hopes it can bring change to their own. The people I sought out don't agree on everything, but all of them have reckoned with questions of belonging and complicity, have wondered whether they should stay in their country, and have asked themselves what they are morally obligated to do to stop or slow the actions of their government. About 20% of Israeli citizens are Palestinian, but for this article, M. Gesson wrote, I spoke only to Jews, for it is in the name of Jewish safety and Jewish nationhood that the Israeli government claims to act. In a free society, all are involved in what some are doing, said Abraham Joshua Heschel, an American rabbi who opposed the Vietnam War and participated in the civil rights movement. Some are guilty. All are responsible. Michael Sfard, a human rights lawyer who has spent much of his professional life representing Palestinians in Israeli courts, has adopted this understanding. Over the years, Sfard has come to consider himself a dissident rather than a member of the opposition. There is no political party that represents his views, and it has grown increasingly difficult to pursue justice through the Israeli court system. And yet, he said, as a citizen and a resident, I benefit. I've been thinking about the quote up top. In a free society, all are involved in what some are doing. Some are guilty. All are responsible. This is the thing that I have been thinking about. Because you see, to an extent, we have all benefited for the crimes that America has done in our name. In the name of freedom, in the name of democracy. They've tortured people, abused people, disappeared people, bombed countries, lied about weapons of mass destruction. We have a Supreme Court that has been corrupt for decades upon decades. We've lied to ourselves about the state of our institutions and what needs to happen in order to preserve a status quo that does not work for all people. So when he says some are guilty, all are responsible, we all bear some responsibility in where we are right now. And this is actually what I think is important for us to unpack. I, like many during the Obama years, thought that this was the beginning of a new era. It did not occur to me until I saw on election night 2016 the entire map of the United States go red that I would be living through a backlash, one that would change the trajectory and the future of America for generations to come. Because when Obama was elected in 2008, I was out in Washington, D.C., ran out into the streets with the pots and the pans and danced and drank until dawn, thinking that a new day had arrived. That I was going to be able, like so many others, to live off of the creme de la creme. We had arrived. We had reached the mountaintop. But there were murmurings and stirrings and planning that was happening. While we were busy celebrating, they were busy plotting how they were going to take their country back forever. And while those of us wanted to push the new Obama administration to think bigger and do grander things, their movement started small, but persistent. The racism began small. Oh, he's not from here. Maybe he's a foreigner. Oh, he's not American. Maybe he's a Muslim. None of the people in power paused and said, what comes next? If we are to build off of the momentum of yes, we can, if we are to build off of this Obama coalition, what does it look like to create the scaffolding that allows us to build bigger and better? Who is going to create the pipeline that would have Obama be an example, a blueprint of what kind of politician we wanted moving forward? But this is what happens when you pin your hopes and dreams on one person instead of building a formidable movement that doesn't just change with the wind. So some are guilty, but all are responsible. Those that sat back and decided not to vote, those that couldn't swallow another Clinton presidency, those that thought that Donald Trump was just a joke or that, well, his policies are good for my bottom line, so I don't really care who he harms because I'm not a part of any of those groups. If we don't recognize our responsibility, our part that we play, then we continue to repeat the cycles over and over and over again. And with each iterance, it gets worse. Donald Trump is the worst of all of the Republicans that have preceded him. And because none of the ones who were also criminals faced any accountability for their lies, their deceit, their corruption, what was created was a monster, an insatiable, disgusting, immoral, unpatriotic monster. I remember the good old days when we thought George W. Bush was the worst. At least I didn't think he hated the country. There was a time when I thought John McCain was the worst. Reagan was the worst. Nixon was the worst. But you see what happens? Like, you go back in time and you're just like, yo, what would have happened? Where would we be if each of those people, each of those presidents had been held accountable for their crimes? We want to say, like, oh, well, our institutions have held. We have persevered. No, we have not. We've buried our head in the sand. And with that, decide to rewrite history to suit us. So Donald Trump is birthed from that place of denial. So we have got to reconcile with where we all went wrong. We have got to reconcile with how we choose to move forward, because right now, folks, yeah, it's dark, literally and figuratively. It is dark. But it doesn't mean that we have to stay here. Donald Trump is going to do his worst. This regime is going to do their worst. And still, I encourage us to find that mustard seed of hope, to find that glimmer of light, and forge a pathway forward. Because we must. Future generations are depending on us to do what we can with what we have. And this is where we are right now. Tomorrow is a huge election day. There are thousands of elections happening all across the country. These are two of the most important ones nationally. Zoran Mamdani in New York City, a Democratic socialist. Abigail Spanberger, a Democrat centrist, going for governor of Virginia, could possibly flip Virginia blue. Zoran Mamdani could make history as the first Democratic socialist to run a the major city in the country. CNN wrote this. Only a party going through the Democrats' identity and existential crisis could, 9 months into Donald Trump's second presidency, have Zoran Mamdani and Abigail Spanberger as its frontrunners in two of Tuesday's biggest races. Spanberger is a 46-year-old former CIA officer, the daughter of a nurse and a federal agent, who sounded the alarm in Congress and now on the campaign trail about what she sees as her party's excesses. Mamdani is a 34-year-old Democratic socialist, the Uganda-born son of a university professor and filmmaker who sprung to stardom with a focus on the cost of living conveyed in buzzy, multilingual videos, pushing for government to pay for more. This isn't a sitcom pitch. It reflects a party still deep in figuring out what it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to appeal to voters. You see, the thing is, the Democratic Party has multiple choices to make. To me, I feel like they've already made their choice. They want to stay the course. They want to stay with the centrists. They want to stay with the ones that take APAC money and corporate money and do the bare minimum, but speak very loudly, but don't really have any teeth or action, aren't visionaries. They want that. They want the rest of us to stay quiet, be happy with the scraps, don't ask for too much, be thankful for the bare minimum, and move along with our days and allow them to continue to take money from the same people that Republicans take money from. You see, Zoran Mamdani scares them for a whole host of reasons. He's young, he's smart, he's passionate, he knows how to use the media to his benefit. He tells the truth, so he doesn't have to speak from a whole bunch of talking points. When asked questions, he answers them. He hasn't run from his disgust of the genocide happening in Gaza. He hasn't apologized for being a Muslim. He hasn't taken any corporate money. He went from being an unknown to possibly winning tomorrow with double digits. Inshallah. He has gone to gay clubs, Caribbean clubs, senior citizen groups. He has knocked on every door in pretty much every goddamn borough. He has talked about the ways that your tax dollars should be working for you, not against you. He talks about having a living wage, free buses. When the Democrats want to tell us that that's a pipe dream, while they give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires that could very well fund the free buses and food that all people deserve. You see, we have gotten so used to being told no that we have forgotten the audacity of dreaming bigger. That's what keeps us stuck in the status quo. That's what allows for the Democrats to give us just enough. Zohar Mamdani is telling us to ask for more, to demand our fair share. And that is scaring the hell out of the billionaire class that has paid out $22 million to try and stop him. When asked most recently by Jake Tapper on CNN to Hakeem Jeffries, is Zohar Mamdani the future of the Democratic Party? He said no. But the Democratic Party would rather pay consultants to try and help them figure out how to speak to young people than rally around the young person that has re-energized this city. And with this race, if he wins, can send a shot across the ball of the billionaires and the millionaires and the oligarchs that think that they're on smooth ground. No obstruction, no pushback. They can fire tens of thousands of workers, replace them with robots, get permanent tax breaks while a family, a couple making $85,000 a year has a 30% height, 30% pay increase for their health care. I don't know about you, but I don't mind paying taxes when I know that it's helping people, when it's helping all of us? What kills me now is to pay taxes knowing that my money is going to Musk and the Kardashians and the fucking Bezos to have more and more and more and more. And they're totally fine with not coming off of a fraction of that so that everyone gets to live well. The Democrats have done a great job, a fantastic job of having us just believe that equity is impossible and that it'll never happen in our lifetimes. And that's why Donald Trump is in power. Because we sat back as a collective and wanted to live a life where I didn't have to think about the president. I didn't have to think about what policies were being passed. I didn't have to think about my next door neighbor. I didn't have to concern myself with who was getting their basic needs met. But that's what I mean by saying some are guilty, but all are responsible. To be a citizen of this country means to be an active participant. And that action isn't just voting every 4 years or every 2 years. It is about being cognizant and asking the questions about where your money is going and who is it helping. What we saw during COVID in that brief window of time was our government spring into action because it had to. Did you see how quickly they came off COVID relief checks for people? How quickly they could suspend student loan paybacks, all to help the people? And yet they tell us on a regular basis that these things can't be done and they can't be permanent. It is awful that it has taken us to be in so much pain to wake more Americans up to the reality of what this country is and the systems that have been betraying us since their inception. But in all of the obstacles that are being presented to us, I still believe that there are opportunities for us to change, for us to grow, for us to ensure that a Donald Trump never happens again, or better yet, that someone worse doesn't come in his stead because we don't do anything in this moment. We have the numbers. We need the commitment and the consistency to get the job done. Tomorrow is election day, dear friends. Vote. And then after that, figure out how you are going to help your communities, how you are going to be actively involved. Because those food bank lines, they're going to get longer. The jobs numbers are going to get worse. The emergency room's going to be filled with people who have had to end their insurance because they can't afford a 30% price increase. But if we band together, if we work together to create the future that we all deserve, maybe, just maybe, we can change something. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I want to, before I get out of here, shout out my super stickers and super thanks and remind all of you that memberships are open. Memberships are open if you are looking for a way to support my work and independent media on a regular basis, do look on the homepage and where it says memberships, click that. And there are 2 tiers, and you can decide which ones you would like to use. As you can see, Susan has gifted a membership. Do consider, if you can, if you have the resources and are able to, becoming a member. Otherwise, if you got $5 to give or $1 to give, thank you, Ernst, as always. Another gift was given for the membership. Thank you so much. Rebecca, thank you for your $20. Susan, again, for your $10. Joshua, every dollar counts. Kim, Ernst, again. My goodness, Claire, thank you so much for your generosity. I really appreciate it. E. Schwartz, as always, thank you so much. Trail Goat, Amanda, Tarabeth, Evelyn, appreciate you. Every single dollar, dear friends, goes to me being able to provide you with the type of coverage and news that you all deserve, with integrity and with passion. And I appreciate each and every single one of you. A week from today is my birthday, and I am looking to hit 100 members of the Danielle Moodie channel. So spread the word, tell folks to join, to become a member, and let's continue to build this amazing, amazing community. I appreciate each and every single one of you for showing up on a regular basis. As always, dear friends, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will be back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. See you all then. Be well.